Going live. People probably just heard that on the YouTube because this thing takes forever to actually kick in. Says you were live. Okay, now we're live. Last time apparently I switched back to Zoom too quickly and it didn't actually go live until minutes later when I switched back to the YouTube page, and then it said you're live, and I'm like, I should have been live 10 minutes ago. So the first 20 minutes of last week got cut off. So now we made sure. I'm going to go back just because now I'm second guessing myself. Yep, nope, we're live. Okay. Cool. Welcome to Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, number 159. I'm your host, Greg Gaub. The gang is all here with Mike and Luff and Henry and John and Dewan and Don and Chris and Phil and Mr. Weber and Mr. Royal and all kinds of other people. And I need to get glasses. Normally we start with show and tell, so let's just keep the ball rolling on that and start with show and tell. Does anybody have anything they want to show and or tell? Past, present, or future projects they're working on? Anything of that nature? There's some newsy kind of things that I want to touch on, but I don't want to steal anybody's thunder with if they have a project they're showing. I don't see anybody jumping up and down. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up a couple of things that I saw that I wanted to talk about. So earlier this week, I saw on slotblog.net this new controller coming out by Mid-America Products. Looks like a real nice controller, suitable for low-powered scale and retro through Group 7 wing cars and track voltages up to 16 volts. It is an electronic controller, as it says. It uses a USB cable to tell the box what to do, which is kind of nice in that it actually connects. I think he posted a picture of it. Yeah, in the controller handle it connects. So this is a standard USB cable. I can't tell if that's micro or C. I think it's probably micro. But if the cable ever wears out from cable fatigue, easy swap. Just open things up and plug them in. Yeah, it looks like a nice controller. Got your basics, brakes, what does he call it? Response curve and throttle. Not a bad looking price. So we'll have to see what kind of reviews there are with the people who buy them and bought them. I actually haven't been back to this thread for a little while. Has anybody bought them yet? Doesn't look like it, or at least nobody's posted reviews yet. So I will try to remember to put a link to that in the video description, and I'll go ahead and copy that link here for you guys if you haven't already seen it on slotblog.net. And see if I can paste that into the YouTube chat too here. Yep, there it goes. Okay, so I don't see any more hands up for show and tell, so I have another controller to talk about. This one I'm personally excited about because we saw it several months ago when David was sharing his earlier model. This is David Kaya of Sillage Racing, also known as the BLST digital slot track guy. He's producing his controller in 4 variants. There is the there's the home version, which is 3 amp with like a 4 or 5 amp burst or whatever. I don't know what the peak is, but 3 amp continuous for home version. And then I think, yeah, Geo asked and I put the numbers up. Here we go. 3 amp continuous for the home version, 10 amp continuous for club, which is going to be plenty for your normal hard body slot car racing. And then the race version with a 30 amp continuous and 43 amp peak, which will do more cars. I'm not going to say it's going to do, super fast, crazy wing cars, because that would be a bad thing for me to claim on David's behalf. But I'm assuming not, because I heard Chris saying at some point that 50 amps is what you want to be able to push for those kind of cars. But I immediately contacted David and said, take my money, just like I posted in response to this thread, shut up and take my money. And I ordered the the race version. I forgot to mention that the 4th version is the race version plus wireless. So you get the highest amp rated controller plus the communication between the controller and the box that plugs into the track is a wireless communication. I opted for non-wireless, but I'm really stoked about the way that the settings are done. Basically, each knob controls a type of setting. I think it's initial throttle level, curve, and brake. And then if you want, you can press in the throttle level knob to change the max throttle, so you can choke it down to a lower max speed. And then pushing in and turning the brake knob changes your brake dissipation to either be consistent dissipation or fading dissipation for brakes. And then I think the center knob, when you press it and turn it, is spin controller, or a different kind of choke or anti-spin, kind of what the green knob is on a slotted controller. And it shows you the changes on the little LED screen in real time, so you can see how the throttle curve changes from start to end, and a little dip at the end for brakes while you're adjusting it. And quick double check on your little screen to see if it's the way you want for whatever car you're driving. I love that, and so I'm happy to support that, and I look forward to playing with that.
All analog, no digital.
No, not yet. But one of the reasons that he started developing that was because he kind of his initial prototypes were basically because he wanted to eventually design his own digital controller. I forget if he was wanting to design his own digital system or a controller that will work with other systems. I think he was talking about doing his own digital system for BLST. But yeah, currently not available for Carrera, Electric, Oxygen, whatever. It's just analog. But I assume that if it goes well, he'll continue with his development, and maybe we'll see other things.
How much is it?
The race version was 230 euros. So the conversion from euros to dollars is pretty close to one-on-one. So I think after conversion, I paid like 260, 270 something US dollars.
Not bad.
No, not bad at all. Not for what I was looking at, and not for that amperage rating and the technology. So there you go. That's all I can tell you now, because I don't have the controller in my hands yet. I'm assuming Tony already ordered one as well. Or Tony ordered two. Yeah, one for the shelf and one. You're a controller collector, John. You should probably order one.
You said BLS system? What is that?
BLST is best slot. Sorry. Best line slot track, which is basically automatic lane changing for digital systems. So it can be any digital system, and his CNC routed tracks, so fully custom wood routed digital track. He includes his own flipper design and electronics that control whether or not your car follows the racing line. So it's got two lanes around the track, but then another one, not necessarily another one, but basically lane changers to go from lane to lane so that the car follows what appears to be an actual racing line through the track. And so what his technology does essentially is detect how close two cars are from bumper to bumper. And if they're like bumper to bumper, then what it does is it automatically pushes them to either lane and does not allow lane changing while they're side by side until one or the other has either made or failed to make a pass. And then once they're farther apart, then it puts them both back on the racing line automatically. So if you watch some BLST videos, what you see is a whole bunch of really skillful lane changing, because it's also anti-collision. So you can't tell it to change lanes, because you just don't tell it to change lanes, except for if you want a pit lane on your layout, then you obviously you would select when to go into the pit lane. But for regular lane changing, you can't force it to change lanes. It decides when and who changes lanes. So you basically just drive the car, you try to get ahead of the other car. You know, when you come up behind the car, expect to be put into a parallel lane, the two of you in parallel lanes, and then try to get ahead of them and make the pass. And I've never driven on one. Henry posted a video not too long ago of a track that he played on with a group. It's a different kind of racing. You know, so if you're used to digital and controlling your own lane changing, maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't like it. It's a personal preference.
I call it semi-digital.
Semi. Okay.
Semi-digital.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, because you still have to contend with traffic just like you do with digital, but you don't have to worry about accidentally lane changing into a guy when you're trying to make a pass or choosing when to change. It'll say you're close enough, go ahead and make your pass. But that was the short version of it. You can find lots of forum threads and videos on best line slot track, BLST, Sillage Racing, Sillage. And of course, I'll post a link to David's topic for his controller into the chat and into the YouTube chat.
If I'm correct, it was Arduino based, wasn't it?
I don't remember. It certainly could be. The technical stuff like that tends to just go in one ear and out the other, because I don't do it, so I don't need to know how it works. I just need to know what it does. That's all that matters to my brain. All right. So Bill put his hand up. What would you like to show off or talk about, Bill?
Not much to show off. I'm still working on the grandstand, and I'm locked in a mortal fight between myself and the airbrush. I mean, one of us will win, but one of us is not winning right now. That's all I'm gonna say. It's just really frustrating, but I will get through it. You know, I'm not gonna let the tool beat me, and there's so many other uses for it that it, you know. But wow, I stink at this tool. The only tool I'm worse at is the table saw, and yeah. So
what's your main problem with it?
Yeah, I'm already missing a finger from the table saw. Oh, it's just, I've had all sorts of consistency issues, and it's just, I have to learn how to use how to mix the paint, or, you know, how to reduce the paint down properly, constantly clogging, things like that. And I just need to get a better airbrush, and I'm just being cheap.
I was going to say, when I tested airbrushing a long time ago and gave up, it was basically because I bought the cheapest airbrush kit that I could find. And
I've already bought. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just, yeah, every time I talk to people about, you know, how to do good with airbrushes, the first thing that come out of their mouth is, don't buy a cheap airbrush, get a airbrush.
Well, I already got rid of the Harbor Freight air compressor. The only victory that I can really claim here is that the Harbor Freight air compressor killed itself. Yeah, I've got one. I've got a bunch of that already. Yeah. It's just a question of getting the right mix. But yeah, the air compressor is out, but I replaced it with a good one.
And what the paint have you used?
I'm using Createx paint now. It's an airbrush paint. That was and you know, George over at Area 51 had recommended that, and you know, the guy knows what he's talking about. It literally, this is just operator error, and you know, just rinse, repeat. I'll get it figured out. But I did want to bring something when Greg brought up his news about the controller and everything. Something that I saw the other night. I haven't had a chance to work on yet, and I don't even think the software is out yet, or the new update is out yet. But I was watching on YouTube the other night. Mark I think his name's Mark, over at Smart Race, that makes the Smart Race app. He and I have emailed back and forth a couple of times because I'd asked basically for more data from Smart Race that I could pluck out in, you know, some different ways. And he had encouraged me to go to the bug or the, what do you call it, the feature requester or whatever, and, you know, submit some ideas. Did that, and he had said he was working on some stuff there as well. So he has put together essentially a system. I haven't seen it yet, but it'll essentially provide a bunch of different stats that Smart Race is currently gathering from your track. when you're using Smart Race on, I think it's just on your Carrera Digital, maybe some other apps or systems, I'm not sure, but in my case, Carrera Digital, all this data that it's pulling in, a lot of that it can spit back out. It just has never been asked. So what he's doing is he's creating the interface to where somebody can create, you can essentially write your own program or somehow get that data and then massage it yourself. So that it'll make it easier on my end. Right now, I kind of have it's a very rigged system. It works to show all of the stats and how many lanes are, on my videos. It does it all live, but it could be done a lot better. And so he has introduced that. Once I get some working code, I'll release it. But I would expect with that addition, the community as a whole is really going to be able to benefit from it because it's something I mean, I know he has the analog camera track counter as well. So with all of that data together, I think we'll see a little more or some more data that some of us are nerds, so we like to see the track times and how many laps are they behind. I still don't understand points, things like that. But the idea is to be able to not just look at the screen, but to be able to get the data out. Because so let's say somebody's just driven their 500th race. Somebody could program when such and such driver reaches lap 500, play or he's a jolly good fellow music or whatever. And you can have so many different things to change kind of the way you're racing now, or maybe keep it the same and just get a little more data. But there's some interesting stuff coming there. It's a really cool idea and really neat that he's done it. So I kind of want to give a shout out to really somebody that's really contributing in a cool way. So thank you, Mark.
For sure. I'm sure I can dig it up, but if you have it handy, feel free to drop the link to that live stream into the chat, and I'll make sure it gets in the description. Of course,
yeah, we'll be.
You saw that I was there. I was trying to get him to maybe consider an Arc Pro version, as you said. Smart Race currently is Carrera Digital only. There's another version for the SCX Advanced digital system. But I don't know if he called it Smart Race or if it got a different name, but it's a whole separate app, right? So Smart Race is for Carrera Digital, whatever race is for SCX Advanced, and then if he does something else, maybe it'll be a different name.
And wasn't it? Forgive me, because I don't totally remember on this, but I think he said that Polycar is looking at putting in some sort of Bluetooth sensor on their track. Is that right?
I heard him talking about that, but I was distracted by other things at the time.
Yeah. But that might be. Anyway, there's some cool stuff coming on. If you guys have not checked out Smart Race and you're using Carrera now, it's definitely worth the look. And then just kind of keep an eye on it because he's putting in time. A lot of these other projects, some of them just haven't really, they're getting dusty. And it's neat to see somebody putting in some polished work. What's that?
Like the Magic Arc app. I mean, part of the discussion on the live stream was he made Smart Race because the Carrera Race app was not so good. Magic did the Magic Arc app because the Scalextric Arc app is not so good. The Magic Arc app is kind of getting dusty, and updates and fixes and help is few and far between. So I'm worried about the longevity of Magic, which is why I was kind of, pushing him towards considering doing a Smart Race for, Scalextric Digital. But like you said, if there's already a better than OEM app for a system, then it doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense for him to do it because that's a whole lot of time for him to dedicate to, porting it to a new system. But check out the live stream. Absolutely, there's a whole. If you already use Smart Race or don't already use Smart Race for your Carrera Digital system, that live stream has a whole bunch of really great information, and he goes into detail about the upcoming additions like the XML generator for getting all that data out of the app and onto your screens and things and whatever's. So yeah, we'll make sure to put that in the description.
Bill,
Perfect.
do you have a pressure regulator and a humidity trap on your airbrush?
I have a pressure regulator on it now. I don't have a humidity trap on it. I live in Oregon. There is no escaping humidity up here, you know.
Okay.
But no,
And
but
what kind of pressures are you running?
I've gone everywhere from about 30 to about 60. 60 when I'm angry, 30 when I'm feeling mellow and willing to work with it. It basically, the pressure goes up the worse it gets. Yeah, it really, it's just a question of I think I just need a better, I mean, it's a Harbor Freight airbrush. It can't be more than $5 a parts, if that, you know.
Yeah.
So I
Bill?
figure it's just a question of getting one.
Bill,
Yes, sir.
what size fluid tip are you using on your airbrush? Do you know?
Oh, it's a point in terms of size.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a 0.3 millimeter. So
It's a
I
bit
thought
small
about
if
putting
you-
up to 0.5.
Yeah, you want a 0.5. For painting cars, I use a 0.5 in my badges. Right?
Really? Okay.
Yes, and a pressure's around 30 psi in
Okay.
those terms. And I'm not using your acrylic paint, but I use that for doing my figures. And you're saying about cheap airbrushes. I've just bought a Chinese knockoff, which is a copy of an aerograph. And you're saying about cheap brushes. I think it was about $25 Australian. So,
Right.
but that's a good quality, cheap, well-made brush. And the aerograph parts actually fit back into it, because I had some old aerograph parts here. I think it was called KK or something. It's just a Chinese knockoff, but it's worth having a look at.
Okay.
I found it on eBay. And I bought it because I didn't want to run water-based paints through my badges, because I only use automotive acrylics on my cars, you see. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, it's worth having a look around, mate, and try and get a 0.5 tip. And I think you'll find that'll be a lot better.
Well, and my concern really, or my understanding, I've been sticking with that 0.3 millimeter because I thought for smaller items that I really would need a 0.3. But if 0.5, if it's still functional, I don't need art. You know, I'm not Picasso. Well,
No, well, I use 0.3.
which is the one with the droopy face. That's the kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I use 0.3 on my figures, and that's all I use it for. Just doing when I'm doing figures and fine detailing. But for cars and interiors and all, I use the 0.5.
Yeah, I might just move to a 0.5 just to get the confidence back and then work my way back, because I mean it's shocking, and I don't even want to do it. You know, I'm kind of in a little bit of a ground halt here, where it's like just trying to get the work done. You know,
once you get the thinning of the paint right, you'll be there. That'll make a big
Yeah.
difference, mate. Yeah, and
All
I think the 0.5 will improve it.
I was thinking the nozzle was probably the issue, but
Are you using the thin ratios Createx recommends?
yeah, let's see.
And the reason I ask is their recommendation is based on a 0.5. If you're shooting
Yeah,
a 0.3, go a little bit more. I shoot the Createx. That's why I'm asking. You can thin
Yeah.
that stuff out quite a bit. So if you're having
I'm using a US Art Supply airbrush reducer, or a water-based acrylic airbrush reducer, and then the Createx. Because I've tried a couple of these different things. Createx was the last thing I bought.
you can go about 50-50 with that Createx.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Through
Yeah.
a 0.3, you almost have to. I
Really?
use their own thinner. It's a 4011, and they also have an additive that you can do that turns it into a urethane. That's a 10%. But their thinner, they say 20 to 25%, but that's for a 0.5.
Okay.
If you're shooting a 0.3, you can do it, because I have 0.3s. I've shot it for 0.3s. You just got to thin
I
it.
think-
Right.
I think
Definitely.
also, Bill, that much pressure is not good, especially with a small needle. I've been using this brand. Let's see if I can get it on here. Mission Models
Yes, sir.
This is the thinner.
Yeah.
There's some, they have some polyurethane stuff and of course, a series of colors. And none of their stuff is recommended to spray at higher than 15 PSI. So,
Oh, yeah.
you know, of course, it depends on how much you need to cover, what you need to cover, and how much paint you want to put down, but at a time. But it sounds like that's too much pressure, and you're using that tiny tip and or needle, I should say, and it just takes practice. Just you have to fool with it. You just have to practice and fool with it. And I don't like wasting my time fooling around with things either. I don't have that much time left. So, you know, but sometimes you have to.
But now Createx recommends 40 to 50 PSI. If you're shooting it right out of the tube without thinning it with a 0.5. But most of that,
and that's on the side.
Createx likes about 25 PSI.
Yeah, on the side here, it says 0.5 millimeter, 40 to 50 plus PSI. And the thing is I know that I shouldn't go with the low, or that I shouldn't go with the high pressure, but on occasion it's worked. And
if you read a little, it says thin for smaller tip sizes, and that is also if you're shooting it straight out of the bottle. Now, if you go online and read their literature, and they'll tell you, and actually, once you mix your paint, you need to let that stuff sit for like 15 minutes before you spray it, once you add your additives. And that's straight off of their website. Mix it, let it sit for 10, 15 minutes, 25 PSI. But if you're shooting a 0.3, you need probably add, if you're shooting 20 drops of paint, you need to add at least 10 drops of thinner.
Brian, are you accusing me of not reading the website instructions?
Well, it's not just the website, because it's not just there. You actually have to go in and download like the MDA sheet. And there's a lot of information there. I learned all this from a guy on YouTube called Barbatos Rex.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I've seen some of his stuff. Yeah.
Yep. And you need to thin the Createx a little bit more. And it's pretty forgiving, and it's good pigment. So, and you can always just shoot more layers if you need to.
The issue I was running into was I get like a sweat when I'd paint it, and it looked more like sweat than it did otherwise. And that's kind of where it's been an issue, but we'll get there. Really,
you're working too hard.
Yeah. Well, that and the high pressure, the paint's drying before it hits the car, before it hits the bottom.
Yeah. And also, do you know how, like, your distance from whatever you're painting to is really important?
Yeah, about inch, 2 inches, probably somewhere in there. It's pretty close.
Yeah.
There's the cheap one I brought, Bill.
Yeah, it looks like it's hold it there, something Moon.
KK Moon, it is.
KK Moon. All right.
Yeah, and it is a straight knockoff of a high quality aerograph.
All right, I can try that.
It's quite well made, and for $20, I thought, oh well, if it's no good, I'll throw it away.
Yeah.
But
no, that's great.
That's only a 0.3, but I think they do make a 0.5. And I mean, as you know, you can pay anything up to $300 or $400 for a decent airbrush, high quality one, but I don't use it enough for that. Yeah. Well, so is that an aerograph, that one?
No, it's in Iwata, made in Japan.
Yes, they're great guns. Yes. I've got full size Iwata guns. Yeah. Yeah. But if Bill's only playing
a really wide variety of different kinds of sprayers and guns and things like that. This is just a fairly typical airbrush.
Yeah. I've got them in my big full-size guns. Yeah, have them for years for production work. Anyhow,
well, I'm glad it's I'm sure I'll figure it out. Now on the plus side, I guess I'll do one more little show and tell here or whatever. These are the ones that came with it, with the grandstand kit. And I ended up, I don't know, they went somewhere, or some of them went somewhere. I don't know where they went, but I ended up, I am decent on my laser cutter. And granted, it's not real hard work, but I got basically just a copy. And so I'm able to finish the kit instead of bugging. talking to Kevin over at Racetrack CNX, I could just recut some new seats. So, but yeah, I am making progress, but once I get my foot out of the paint bucket, I'll be happier.
Well,
All right, thanks for the time, guys, and all the insight on it. I'll definitely the first things to go to a bigger nozzle, I think.
I can guarantee you, Bill, if you take something that you really don't want it to sort of finish very well, it'll turn out perfectly.
Yeah. Do something you don't
It's
care
going to be a
about.
beauty.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Bill, and thank you everybody for helping Bill.
Thank you.
Henry, you've got your hand up. What's up? Okay, let me zoom in here.
This is an old battered body, and I'm just trying to do some scenes for the race in Barcelona. So blue, red, black, and blue, because that's the national color of our country. So just testing and it's going fine. But this is the thing I want to talk about.
Oh, the brushless motor. All righty.
6 grams.
I watched your videos on that. It's really interesting. Cool stuff.
And here you can see it built into the car. So you got a big hole with a very tiny motor in it. And yeah, it's something different. It's 6 grams, so you lose a lot of weight. No, we're just testing it because it's from Doslot, and it's a German company, and they drive there over there with 1/24 scale. And we saw it on the club, and we bought some. This is the ESC with it, so very tiny. Also, that's you're gonna do that on the place from the bracket.
The ESC, the electronic speed.
Yeah, correct. So this is the 2 pieces, and you need nothing more than that. But so they are at this moment too powerful, and at this moment to meet our specs on the club, I did an 8 pinion and 33 gear. So now it's driving around 30 kilometers per hour, but the acceleration is enormous of this. And so we're testing at the moment, and yeah, it's expensive now at this moment. But yeah, we are a lot of lunatics, so we like new things, and that's why we drive digital, and that's why we make things, and when yeah, from one thing come the other, or not. You never know.
Yeah.
But we hope they will make. This is 300 kV, and that stands. It's yeah, 300, and we hope that they will make a 200, because then it's more easier for us to work on the gears, because you don't want to drive with an 8 pinion.
Right.
So so that kit basically from that you were showing, you bought it from a specific reseller or retailer that sells a motor and an ESC program specifically for running that motor off of DC. So the ESC basically is taking in the variable DC and controlling
normally an ESC do something else, because you do it for RC controlling. And this one is special designed for slot car racing.
Yeah. So yeah. How does it? I mean, I'm sure it does it, but when it's a very low voltage, like you're just touching your slot car trigger, it's only sending a couple volts to the track. What's the minimum voltage that the ESC will operate and run the
1.7 volt.
1.74 volts. Oh,
until 16 volts.
So as long as your min speed on your controller is sending at least 1.74 volts, then it'll work just like you expect it to.
Yeah, we tried it now with 5 different controllers, and if I heard the stories, normally it doesn't work properly with PWM controllers. but this one does at this moment. I've tried 4 or 5, and 4 of them were PBN controllers, and no problem at all. You have to fiddle around because it's a total different behavior of the motor than a normal motor. You don't have not a lot of brakes. No, you have to turn out. You have a lot of brake in the beginning, so you have to turn out your brakes. But yeah, the difference is of course the speed you get in an acceleration and the weight.
Yeah.
But yeah, for now at this moment there are 64 euros, so that's a lot of money for a motor.
64 including the ESC or not including the ESC?
Total package.
Okay, that's not. I mean, yeah, that's expensive compared to a $10 brush.
Correct. Yeah, that's why I'm saying we're a bunch of lunatics to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's not just you. I mean, there's plenty of people playing with that stuff. So I wasn't surprised when I saw you.
Once you have a couple of controllers, the motors are cheap.
Yeah, is that the money is in the ESC?
Yeah.
That was the motor is 14 euros.
Yeah.
Correct.
Oh, but then you can just use
$15.
ESC around.
Yeah, motors are free.
And they make a huge variety of those motors too. Those brushless motors of that design you're looking at.
Yeah,
I mean, for radio-controlled aircraft, use them. There's lots of different sizes of those things.
Yeah. At this moment, we were looking at the internet on AliExpress, and we couldn't find something similar. It's normally made at this moment only for helicopters and RC helicopters, etc. And for this size and to have the shaft on the proper side and etc. and also they call it the KVs. It's not easy to find. Otherwise, I bought it.
Yeah.
But
well, they will. I mean,
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, the progress that's going on is ridiculous on these things.
Correct.
There was a big race 2 weeks ago, a Eurosport race in Italy that Ernie from MR Slot Car went over to run the race, direct the race, and the Italians are taking them all apart. They're rewinding. They're doing all kinds of stuff to them, changing bushings and bearings and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, net result was the 15 euro brushless motor turned a quicker lap time than a $450 US open Eurosport motor.
Oh, great! Yeah.
And the brushless motor, you can run it for the next 6 months. Yeah. The Eurosport motor, you gotta every 8 minutes, it needs about a $60 to $80 rebuild.
Yeah, correct. I've heard stories about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other cool thing you didn't mention, if set up well, they make no noise.
Yeah.
They're just like you can't hear. It's just like with no motor, it's just going around. Yeah.
Yeah.
The noise from drones is the propellers, not the motors.
Right. No, not at all. No. But it's a cool thing. It's a cool new thing, and yeah, it's the same as with computers in the 1970s. Yeah, when people want them, they're gonna make more, and then we'll drop the price.
Yeah.
And someday somebody find out how the S work, and they program it.
Yeah. I think it's better aligned with higher scale racing. I really don't see it taking over for the Scale Electrics and the Carreras of the world. Those motors are far too cheap. And, the one nice thing about the brushless motors is how efficient they are with electricity and battery life in RC copters and planes and stuff. When you plug in your wall wart, electricity is the last of your worries. It's constant.
Yeah. So I don't have any understanding whatsoever of those $450 motors. Are they that expensive because of all the man hours that are put into making it be so perfect?
Yeah, custom. They're all cottage industry made, basically, Greg. Like there's 4 or 5 guys. Coford makes them. Pro Slot US, which is different than the old Italian Pro Slot. There's 3, and Cahosa make all these motors. They're really, you know, a lot of them are milled aluminum end bells, and they're doing them like pretty much hand done because the volumes are so low. As opposed to, you know, Slot-It orders, you know, 40,000 S cans at 23,000 RPM. So it's just economies of scale, basically.
Well, I mean, even that same, like you could buy that same kind of motor that those $450 ones are, but it's not going to run like those $450 motors.
Well, you probably, yeah. I mean, they're all rare earth magnets. The magnets are all aligned in the can to fire directly at the center of the motor. Like there's a lot of technology.
Yeah.
You can buy them that work. They work just fine, but at that level of racing, it was like years ago when I was racing that stuff, I was sponsored by a company called Potential Kinetics, which still makes all kinds of top end armatures. And because we were sponsored, we'd get the pick of the armatures. And then you could go into your local slot car store and buy a PK armature for a couple $100, put it in your car, but you weren't getting what I got. And that was not fair, and that really ruined that side of the hobby. So
yeah, but like for example, as a boneheaded layman, as far as that kind of motor is concerned, I could see 2 motors side by side. One's a $450 motor, and the other one looks the same to my untrained eye, and would function just at nowhere near the level of these $450 motors, but like for $20 or something like that.
Right.
Because it's just some cheap Chinese thing. It fits in the same spot, and it goes when it gets power, but it's not going to be competitive. That $450 is the milling time, just all of that.
It's exactly the same thing as taking your slotted car out of the box and putting it on the track.
Yeah. Versus
and then the next guy trues the tires, and then the next guy trues the tires and sets body float, and then the next guy puts bushings on, where. So the motor you buy is a slotted car right out of the box. And the fast guys have done 15 tuning steps beyond the time. Like the same car, it's just, and you look at it and you go, you know, how come I'm not going as fast as this guy? It's pretty high tech stuff.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Just kind of wanted to make sure that my understanding was correct in that.
Yeah,
it's all like tons of man hours making that.
Oh yeah, and I mean that's one of the attractive things of brushless motors. Is that if you and I can both go out and buy a $15 brushless motor and put it in the car, we're both going to be roughly equal in terms of performance.
Yeah,
and
that's
neither
also.
one of us has to spend $450.
Yeah.
I wonder why there's some pushback on brushless motors.
Yeah, I've seen the forum, and a lot of us say you're idiots and you're going too far, and etc. etc. Okay, we are the first who do it in 132 scale, and yes, you can buy a motor for an SRP 4780. I understand that, but it's the technique that we love, and we like to experiment with it.
Yeah.
The same was said when the RC guys went brushless, started to go brushless. And now, you know, that's the thing. I mean, you can do so much with an RC motor, with the tuning and everything of them. Now it's a lot different.
Yeah. I got to believe the price is going to come down though, because the ESC you would need for a slot car is a lot less sophisticated than you need for a quadcopter or an airplane.
Oh, yes.
It's just one channel, one throttle. You're not running 4 motors. So that's where they're going to probably get the greatest savings is when somebody comes up with a simplified speed control for them.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be demand, won't it?
Yeah. And then as soon as more guys start using them and the demand goes up, they can produce more to, on an assembly
Yes.
line, and the price naturally comes down then.
It's what you were saying, Chris. I mean, at the moment, the units are cottage industry. There's only a few people making them.
Yeah.
Same with the brushless for slot cars at this point. But
That's what I'm saying.
Eventually some manufacturer is gonna, request an ESC that only does what's necessary for slot cars, like Brian was saying, and it'll be a fraction of the cost, and they'll turn them out in the thousands and hundreds of thousands. And
I'm still not on board with them taking a big chunk out of the slot car market.
At some point, someone who loves trees and spotted owls and tadpoles will mention that brushless motors are greener. And then legislation will go up. United States Trade Commission will decide that no more S-can motors can be made because there's electromagnetic interference and they're not as energy efficient. And if you write your congressman today and say that, and you're in the right state, your lobbying will start today. You can do it in an email.
All right. Dystopian future.
And then we'll have to replace all our CD drives and all our electric toothbrushes.
Yep.
And everything that runs on electric motors now is not going to happen.
It'll be like the TV switch over from.
Welcome. Yeah. I was just going to say, welcome to HD TV.
If I can see, you have the World Championship from NSR last week.
Yeah.
If I know that the Dutch team have to change the motor twice.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think that's a good cause. Buy a brushless.
Never mind the time cost. If the motor is failing from things that a brushless motor wouldn't fail from, which I presume is a lot of things.
Yeah.
Then for endurance racing, maybe that's if they're less prone to failure, then that would be a good enough reason to use them in endurance racing.
Absolutely.
I wonder why that team had to replace their motor twice.
Sorry?
Why did they have to replace it twice?
Yeah, why?
I didn't spoke to him at the moment, but I knew that was on a live screen, and one Paul van der Hurk was online, and he said, "Yeah, we lost a lot of rounds because we have to change the motor twice."
There's a cheap ESC for you. Thanks, John.
Yeah, this is from Horizon Hobby, which is a big RC aircraft and dune buggies and cars, RC cars hobby company, and you can see them coming down. This is a programmable ESC, so I don't know what the programming device entails or how much it costs, but theoretically you could have one with you, and if you needed to change the ESC programming for a particular course or particular response of your tires or whatever, traction, whatever, you could do it.
There's no question it will become a bigger part of the hobby. As it stands right now, Scale Electrics and Slotted and all these guys buy their motors for $1. No ESCs, none of that stuff. So you've got to, the guy's making profits. So say Slotted buys that ESC and get a reduced rate, and they buy it for $8 or $9. And then they get a motor for $3 or $4. That's $15 versus the $1 they spend on the motor today. So, if hobbyists demand it and everybody says, and I read a lot of the forums and everybody's squawking at prices. So if you say, okay, your average Scale Electrics car now is going to cost $175 because it's got a brushless motor, guys are going to go, no, thank you. Give me the old one.
You got that right.
It's going to be a cottage.
However, if a fella could spend maybe 2 or 3 times what he's spending now and have a better opportunity. He might think he'd have a better opportunity to win. He's going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the difference between the hobby market and the racing scene. If
I
you go out
get it totally.
to the high
and
street now and buy a radio control car, it will still have a brushed motor in it. It's the racing scene that have completely adopted brushless, and it does make sense for them to do so because the performance is there and the longevity is there that's not there with brushed equipment, and the similarity of equipment, parity of equipment is also there. And
Tunability for every trade
gain.
Yeah.
Seems to
But
me
it will
that
be
the
it will only be the racing fraternity that adopt them.
Right.
Not mass production.
be interesting to see if the ESC could be incorporated into the controller. So you wouldn't need one for every car. You would just need the motor.
We talked about that.
Brian, these days in radio control, they're actually manufactured on the end bell of the motor.
There you go. It's not going to be in the controller because the track would require 3 wires.
Right.
That's correct.
To control the motor, but it could be integrated into the motor like that.
Yeah, but in the future, you get a whole different car.
Yeah, I was going to say this will probably what we're going to see hitting the slot car hobby first is not going to be. I mean, obviously, guys are doing it right just for the heck of it, but I'm thinking probably some cottage guy. Somebody's going to say, I want to make a line of slot cars that are brushless motor slot cars, and just going to try to break into the industry of losing money on slot cars by selling them as brushless motored slot cars. That's what we're doing.
E-formula.
There's a couple of guys around here doing that right now. There's Richard Mack in Britain. You can call up Richard Mack and he'll build you a brushless motored slot car with whatever spec you want.
Yeah, but I mean, somebody brands and then like their own cars and everything.
If you're thinking it's just a small surcharge over a basic slotted car, don't phone them.
Now, and if we're talking about money, I bought an AMG NSR for the race in Barcelona. It cost 66 euros or dollars. And
tell us what it's worth now.
Yeah,
and I've built it up with SR+, slotting plus components, and did a chip in it. It's now 185.
Right.
So
and most of that
costs money.
Most of that wasn't the chip. Most of that was all the replacement parts.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And was it the best?
You got a big box of spares
when I bought it? No.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
so that's tuning.
It goes back to my argument against when people say I don't like digital because it's more expensive. I'm like, you're going to spend a lot of money no matter what. It's about where you decide to put your money, not how much it costs. Because you're going to decide to spend $400 on a fancy DeFalco or Third Eye or whatever controller. I'm spending $150 on my controller, but now I got more money for chips and things.
Right. Meanwhile, we can just give Chris some, piano wire and brass, and he'd build something that would beat the pants off everybody.
Yeah, for like $5, right, Chris?
Yeah, $5. $5 Canadian.
That's for 2 of them.
Yeah, but then he signs it and it makes $200.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Dennis even puts numbers on his.
That's true. All right, I think that subject has been used up. Let's do some club corner. If anybody has any past, present, or future club, more than one person racing slot cars activities they want to talk about, raise your virtual hand or your real hand, and I'll try to remember to get to you. I'll go ahead and talk about Monday racing. I finally went back to racing. I did not race the previous Monday that I came back from Europe because it was midnight in the middle of the day. For my body was saying, it's midnight, dude, go to bed. But it was only like 2 o'clock. So no, I did not go racing that night, but I went racing the night before last at Russ's wonderful wood track. We raced our Trans Am cars, and we did the long heats with the fuel and everything, and that was an absolute blast. Lots of side-by-side racing, which is always a good time, and lots of crazy crashes and bad marshalling, which is also a good time when you're not involved in it. And I managed to eke out a 3rd place, so podium, woot! I'm going to be last on the actual series results because I missed 3 races and you only get 1 throwout. So, oh well, but hey, you know, them's the breaks. Next week we're starting our Skelectric BTCC series. We're running Skelectric BTCCs, no magnets, with urethane, polygauge urethane tires. If you're in the Seattle-Tacoma area and you want to race with us, give me a holler and I'll hook you up.
Can you say Honda?
I'm pretty sure the Honda is one of the allowed versions.
Right. That I think that's the fastest one of the bunch.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of versions that they were talking about that they weren't sure they wanted to allow in the group because they were either so much better or so much worse. I wasn't paying attention because I already had a car from the last time we ran BTCCs, so that's what I'm running.
Yeah.
We found the Volkswagen was way ahead down here.
Yeah,
and we ran them. Yeah, it's a lot longer guide length and just a bit easier to drive.
Yeah.
So that's on the tracks.
Agreement on this. The BTCC, you've got your Civics. They tend to be rated, and then other people rate the big ones, the BMW, the Passat.
I mean, it's going to be the track and the drivers, right? Or the track mostly.
Yeah.
With your guide lead
on short tracks, the Honda is definitely better.
Yeah, like it's a shorter guide lead.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done. So as I was saying, if you wanna race, you're in Seattle-Tacoma area, message me. We'll get you hooked up for racing. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, I have a sad note, kind of. I witnessed the worst sportsmanship I have ever seen at a slot car race.
Ooh.
This last weekend. We had Slotto, and a major retro Can-Am chassis manufacturer actually pulled a competitor's slot car off the track for 3 laps because he was upset because he was being vocal as his motor was dying. The guy had won the previous B main and was running the A main, and his motor on the last heat, on the last 30 seconds, was dying, and he was verbally coaxing it. And the guy got so upset that he pulled the car off the track and put it on the side. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, he pulled his competitor's cars off, set it at his station. I, as a marshal, had to go and walk over and grab the car and put it back on. And it worked out okay because he didn't beat the guy, but it was only by a half a lap. I was so upset, you couldn't believe it. It was terrible. And I would prefer that the guy never raced at our place again, but I don't have a lot of say in that. He's been there for a long time and has, anyway, and builds a lot of the chassis that the guys have. So it's probably not going to happen, but that was awful. That was just awful to see that, to be that ensconced playing with toy cars that you're going to do something that crappy was really annoying. I never liked the guy before, but now I hate him.
If there's enough people that feel the way you do, boycott the place.
Well, some people didn't see it.
Yeah.
I discovered afterwards, Shiggy and Ratby didn't see it happen. They didn't realize that was going on. So, I told them yesterday and we talked about it a little bit. So
that's what happens when you're not breastfed.
Behavior like that
anyway,
can clubs, can't it?
The rest of my slot car week has been dismal.
Exactly. What, like Wayne was saying, that kind of behavior is what kills a club.
Yep.
Yeah.
The guys that have been going will just roll their eyes and be like, oh, that's what's his face. He's all right.
New guys.
But new guys will see that kind of crap and be like, nope, see ya.
Screw this.
What does the owner of the car say when the guy took it off the track? What did the owner say?
Well, he was sort of, it was the third race of the day, and we had 23 people. So we were running A, B, and C mains. And it was the last race of the day. He didn't say much about it at that point. And since the result was there, you know, he didn't say much about it. And I don't know what he thought. I mean, you could see his motor was dying, and he was verbally coaxing it around the track because it was blowing up. But he would have made it, you know, 3 laps better than that if he would have been on. So anyway, it was just
this verbal coaxing, was it blue language?
No. Kind of, it's like, come on, come on. But he was loud, and the perpetrator of this just screamed, "Shut up," and pulled his car off the track. It was just like, you know, I'm sorry. That just doesn't fly with me.
No.
Anyway,
it's nice. It's nice when everybody at a race, you know, the marshals and the people who aren't racing are respectful and quiet and you know, letting the drivers focus on their driving. But there's distractions. There's gonna be distractions. So the drivers need to be able to drive with distractions. And if that guy was so distracted by, you know, the guy yelling at his car that he got that frustrated to yank the car off the track and set it aside like that just to stop the guy from yelling, he needs to go and have some counseling.
Well, how much slower was he going than everybody else, Michael?
How much slower was he going than everybody else?
Yeah, at the end.
About 2 seconds a lap slower.
On a how much of a lap? 4-second lap?
They were LMP, so we're running 3.3.
Okay. I tell you right now, if I've been in tons of, the race director should have told him to pull the car off the track. Those cars are going so fast, and you're lapping the guy every lap and a half. The race director should have told the guy to pull the car off the track. If I was a race director, I would have, and I know a ton of race directors that would have.
That makes sense.
That's a different perspective.
Yeah, but you're not the one. It's not, the race director wouldn't be on the track, you know, competing.
I agree completely. Like for your fellow competitor to do that is completely wrong. I've been in tons and tons and tons of races where somebody's spun a pinion or a spur, or there's been some mechanical defect in the car, and the race director has said pull it off and it could be in front of any marshal. He'll just say pull it off the track, and the next marshal that's in front of will pull it off the track.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, well, as I said, this was in the closing seconds of the last heat. So it wasn't, you know, like he was going to be a danger to the results for everybody else. So anyway, but it did rub me the wrong way. I just, you know, for the competitor to do it, that's annoying.
Yes, for a competitor to do it is completely uncalled for. At any point in the race, if you know, you say it didn't ruin anybody's race, if you're coming up and he's that slow and you're coming up on the outside or the inside on the bank and you hit his car and your car goes flying into the wall, that could ruin your race.
True enough.
And somebody on YouTube said, is that why some tracks, a lot of tracks, have a podium, have a driver's podium, or the drivers are away from the track, so they can't do that kind of shit?
Yeah. Well, there isn't enough room really to do that here. But yeah, I could see it as being a thing to do. Anyway,
that's much more a European setup than it is a North American. Most tracks in the States and Canada, the drivers are standing like right beside the track.
Yeah, right on the main straight.
Yeah. But anyway, the rest of it for me was a wash. I I redeemed myself in LMP and got a 5th out of the 23. So that I did okay. But the rest of the races I'm struggling with. I ended up in the C main in one with all the kids, and that was just a crash fest.
Ouch.
It was, you know, I was a thousandth of a second out of the B main, and it was dismal. And it was one of these things where my car seemed to be a magnet for anything bad that was happening. I mean, I could be going down the straight and somebody would bounce off the wall and the thing would slide up and knock me off in the next bank. It was just ridiculous. So it was like, it's racing. But
you see, that's the thing, isn't it? You drove despite the distractions.
Yeah.
And it does sound like the guy who was lapping slowly. Admittedly, he had something to race for. He obviously had a bit of a lead.
Well, he had won the B main and was doing, I think he was 2nd overall. And
yeah,
I think a portion of it that this person makes sort of, well, I don't know, he doesn't makes a living, but he sells a lot of his retro Can-Am chassis. And that, so he's sort of, you know, the guy who has them and frequently wins the retro Can-Am race because he builds the chassis. So, you know, I think it was a embarrassment pride thing that somebody else was beating him and he was just angry about it. So who knows? But he's not a very sportsmanlike guy anyway. He's frequently been vocal about other people's inabilities and yells at the marshals and stuff. So, you know, he's a bad boy anyway, in my view. So
they tend to be.
Not that I've never not yelled against about a marshal. I have been guilty once or twice.
When they're falling all over themselves, it's hard not to.
Yes. So, I need a dope slap once in a while. It's like, oh wait, you fell off, right?
Yeah.
The only time I really get upset is when the knockoff is not my fault and the guy holds my car up in the air while he puts 4 other cars on.
Yeah.
So it's like, but anyway.
If you don't fall off, you don't need marshals.
Well,
Easy
that's
fix.
true, but sometimes it's not your fault.
No, I know. We actually lost a fantastic competitor down here through that sort of thing. Guy returned to racing after he raced 24th for years, flexi cars, returned to our scale racing. And one night he was driving around learning to drive again. And someone turned around after racing and said, well, you cost me 3 laps. You're a bloody nuisance on the track. And he was a bit thin-skinned and got offended and turned up a couple of days later and said, can you sell all my cars for me? And it was a shame. You know, it doesn't do anything for the hobby, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
As you said, they are toy cars we're racing.
Yeah, yeah. You know, if you're that wrapped up in it, you need to get a life.
Yes, exactly.
or proper medication. Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Hey, imagine you'd flown from the States to Italy, and the person who's in charge of changing the lane stickers on the cars puts the wrong lane sticker on your car. You don't realize it. You keep repairing your car because it gets broken because it keeps getting put back on the wrong lane. And then
I think I know something about that.
the lane change happens, and the same person makes the same mistake.
Oh, geez.
Not once, but twice, Wayne.
That's why your teammate should be the one putting.
Yes. Where is our friend from Electric Dreams today? He can tell us a bit more about that. Yes.
Probably.
Imagine how ramped you'd be if you'd spent that kind of money to have that kind of result handed to
I mean,
you.
yeah, that'd be very annoying with the money you put into it to go all that way and then have that happen. Yeah, I watched some of that. It's a shame.
Yeah.
I'd have almost knuckled the marshal.
Yeah. Still, you take it out. It's part of the sport. You know, you just take it. I mean, if you think that being involved in accidents is all your own fault, you need to try digital, because digital, oh man, you can find yourself being the punching bag, and not necessarily because anyone's got anything in for you. It's just the way of the racing sometimes.
True. Yeah.
Just as well it wasn't John Kidd on the ice rink, or he'd have worn a stick, wouldn't he, John?
I was going to suggest that you just introduce Canadian rules which allow full body contact. What's wrong?
In that case, I definitely would have won.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the way Chris will tell you that's the way we golf over here. Heaven help you if you don't pay attention putting.
Oh God. On that note, it looks like I'm going to have to replace my retro Can-Am car because this thing is old, ancient, dismal. If Chris could give me an idea of some of the better builders of retro Can-Am chassis.
Other than the guy.
I thought you said you knew a guy.
Yeah, not that guy.
Yeah, well, rest assured I'm not buying his chassis.
Who built that one?
That was this guy.
Okay.
You'll be nice and not name his name.
There's a good reason to swap chassis again, yeah.
Yeah, well, don't forget when you crush that one, remember to videotape it.
Do you ever go on to
and send it to him?
Do you go on to Slop Blog at all, Mike?
Not usually, no.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where all the chassis builders are.
They've got a Slop Blog has a like a buy and sell section.
Uh-huh.
And there's a couple of builders there. There's a guy named Cap C. There's a few good builders.
Okay.
I've noticed Slop Blog tends to have a lot of the metal chassis racing stuff going on.
There's a few good kits out there that really don't make you bend a whole bunch of stuff. You know, you could always try doing one yourself from a kit. The kits are like, you can get a kit from RGO and a bunch of guys will do kits. They're pretty easy to put together because the slots in the guide tongue plate are already in there. You just have to cut your wire and basically solder it in, or I mean, there's plenty of guys that'll build chassis from if you want to go.
Well, there's one guy that races with us that builds chassis, but he wants $350. And you know, they're great chassis and they work really well, but I'm not prepared to spend that kind of money on it. I'm not that good a driver to warrant that kind of spending.
Yeah, I mean, any good builder is going to want a couple of $100 anyway. Like it.
Yeah, I can see that.
You know,
a couple $100 is okay, but $350 is more than I want to spend for a race that I do once a month.
What's the matter with that car?
It's unpredictable in handling, and real sensitive.
Okay, so why don't you've got a flat block?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't you play around with that then? Take everything off and just stick it on a flat block. And then just heat up a couple of joints.
Oh, yeah?
And see what happens. If the piano wire springs out of the joint, it's bent.
Okay.
So, I mean, and it's in plastic chassis, you can tell if they're bent, and in brass chassis, you can tell if they're bent, but it's really tough to tell if they're tweaked. So if the piano wire hasn't been put in and it's under stress, even though it looks flat, it's trying to pull the chassis in one way or the other. So, just if you don't like it, put it on a block, heat up a joint and see if anything happens. If nothing happens, go to the next joint. And if something springs out or pops out on you, you got to tweak chassis.
What happens if he goes through?
Or you could just take it to a chiropractor.
There you go.
What if he goes through all the joints?
Let's see it again. Put it up again, Michael. There's nothing. Okay, flip it over. There's nothing in the design of that chassis. Again, depending on your track, there's nothing on the design of that chassis that says it's a horrible chassis.
Okay.
It's more potentially the execution of the chassis, where the wires go into the where the two piano wire rails go into the guide tongue.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you want to see if one of those pops up when you heat it up.
Okay.
What if it doesn't?
Well, try another joint somewhere else. If it's not that, you got to play around with weight distribution and setup and all the rest of the stuff. But there's no some chassis you look at and you go, it's just not gonna do it. The design is not, not gonna run quick. There's nothing wrong with the 2-rail chassis. The way it is, it looks like it's got some movement. The motor box looks fairly secure. They all run basically the same guide lead because of the rules. The only thing I can think without having it is that it could be tweaked, and then you can mess around with weight distribution. And finger exercises are always a good thing for slot car racing as well, which I hate to bring up, but if you only miss by 1,000th of a second, it doesn't sound like the car's that shitty.
Yeah, well, it's in the past it's been a upper B main competitor, but the racing has gone from somewhere in the 4.5 second for the retro Can-Ams to down to 3.8 in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
So it's gotten pretty competitive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're there or thereabouts, the sort of the kicker for me is when you're saying the handling's inconsistent, that suggests a bend or a tweak in the chassis somehow.
Okay.
The motor is the motor, the tires are the tires, the guide's the guide. There's no reason for the guide to, pop out one turn versus another turn. It sounds like a chassis tweak somewhere.
Okay.
Those things bend easily.
Go ahead.
Those things bend easily.
Yeah. And as I was saying, there was a crash fest to say the least.
Well,
I've been measuring the fore-aft weight distribution on the thing, and this one requires much more forward weight to work better than most of the others.
Right.
And it's pretty squirrely for traction wise, even after a fresh glued track. So I know that's part of the Can-Am thing, with the inline motor in that. But
check the chassis.
Yeah. If for instance one of the wires pops, what do I do? Replace the wire or?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, if one of the wires pops out, take the wire out, put it on a flat block and make sure it's flat and not stressed.
And
if it is, you can't, in a billion years, you're not going to get a piece of piano wire straight as it should be. You can't.
Right.
So just put another piece of piano wire in.
Okay. Yeah, once they've been tweaked, the spring back means it'll be a curvature on both ends.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, chassis in the early 70s when we were running Champion Group 20 chassis, you used to take those things, put them on a flat block, and touch an iron to one of the front uprights where the front axle tube was held on, and the thing would jump 1/4 of an inch.
Oh, geez.
Well, they were made, they were all made in China at the time, and they're made by people that are told this goes on here and this goes on here. They don't take the time to align them and flatten them and do all the rest of the stuff. So,
okay.
A flat square chassis is the most critical thing. It's way more critical than the design of the chassis. I've seen tons and tons of guys come into the shops with like really high-tech designs that were poorly executed. And they get the crap kicked out of them by a guy who comes in with a fairly straightforward chassis design, but it's nice and flat and nice and square.
Mm-hmm.
And
looking
same
at
in
it now, if you see that center wire on there,
yeah, the
I
bite,
just realized
bite
it's bent.
that goes across, that's the bite bar.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bent.
Well, the bite bar is bent, and to be honest with you, it doesn't look like your motor's sitting in there straight.
Ah, okay. Oh, you're right. I look at it now and I can see that.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So
I'll see what I can do.
yeah, you know, the motor box could be tweaked. There's, you know, if that guy built, if nothing's changed from when that guy built that chassis, I'd be looking for a new builder. That's like, I can see stuff from here that is not right.
Okay.
DLC time.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's you got to decide whether you want to stay with it. It's the one class that is the most expensive and it's the least used. We race the LMPs and the stock cars 3 times a month, and the Retro Can-Am's only once a month. So I have to decide whether I want to invest the kind of money that it takes to get a better result.
Right.
I mean, it's frustrating, but you know, I may have to resign myself to that.
Yeah.
You're either spending money or time.
Yeah. True enough.
All right, the floor is open, gentlemen. If it's even tangentially related to slot cars, feel free to bring it up. Talk about it, ask about it.
John Kit, did you ever get your Professor Motor controllers in?
I did, yeah. I just haven't had a chance to really post anything about it, but my goodness, did they ever make a difference?
Did you get the 2-knob ones or the 1-knob ones?
They all have 2 knobs, but I got the one that Chris recommended for home use, and oh my goodness, what a difference! Yeah, I knew there would be a difference, but I didn't realize just how much of a difference there is.
Yep.
What were you using before? Instead of Parmas?
Oh gosh, I was using Parmas, the Revell controllers, even the Fly controllers, 2 wires touching together. We used everything. Oh yeah, you try and get around that's a gas actually. That's fun.
Yeah, it's hard to convince people that it's not the car, it's the controller. Because they're like, well, this car is different and it drives better. Well, this car will drive better too if you get a better controller.
Yeah, you know, and you can tell the difference with different controllers too. The most fun we had, I've got an old Cox, which is in great shape, 1/32 scale Cheetah, and then I use the Cox controller and of course they match up really, really well. But you take that Cox controller with a modern car, and it's like Armageddon. It's that's part of the fun. But no, the Professor Motor controllers are just marvelous. Yeah, no, I've got photos here. Let me just dig them up. I'll take a sec. You guys talk amongst yourselves. I'll just find them.
Yeah. I'm just gonna let it happen, you know. Hey, John, put up a hand. You want to show off a car? What do you want to do, John? Got your hand up. You gotta unmute yourself because I can't hear you.
Hang on.
There you go.
Okay. I bought a slug of Carrera stuff, track and some cars and things, and part of that was this.
Okay.
Is this?
Oh, Ramjet X?
Yeah.
Yeah. Digital.
Do they work? Do they work? Do they work pretty well?
They work fantastic on Carrera Digital, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they're great controllers.
I have some friends, recent acquaintances that have a couple of Carrera Digital tracks I've been able to race for the first time in 40 years. So, you know, it's I'm having a blast. So
that's great.
This will come in handy if they'll let me use it. If they'll let me use it.
Are they still using? Okay. Are they just using the set controllers or?
Right. Yeah, the standard controller from Carrera.
I foresee some Ramjet X purchases in the near future.
Yeah, they're either gonna buy that controller or ban you.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly. They're either gonna say, okay, we're all buying this controller, or no, John, you're not allowed to use that controller. But yeah, it's probably more likely they're gonna say, wow, that's awesome. Where can I get one?
Right.
Makes that much of a difference.
So,
That's all I had.
So I found the photo. So here's what we used to use before, Brian. These wonderful Parmas.
What do you know? What their ohmage was?
I think they're like whatever for a homestead. I think is it 45 or 40? I think I got them actually from Ernie, Massetti, years and years ago.
See, those used to be fantastic for our HO cars.
Yeah. Oh no, they're they did the job, but then because it just have the standard sort of 1960s technology that we all know and love.
It looks like about a 60 ohm.
A 60 ohm. Okay, thank you.
Well, I'm not. The number of lines and the thickness of wire on the it looks like about a 60, but I'm not positive on that.
Okay, cool.
It'll say on the other side of that there'll be a little stamp or something on the actual resistor barrel.
Oh, okay, cool.
Not that it really matters, but.
All right, and then Brian, these are the ones that Chris recommended, and I got one in red and one in blue, so it can actually differentiate.
Compared to those Parmas, don't they?
Pardon me, sorry?
They seem huge compared to the Parmas, don't they?
They do, but you know what? I think they're about the same weight.
yeah, they feel great. They got good. I thought they had good ergonomics.
Yeah, no, they're marvelous. And then here's the other side of them with the sweepers. And then Chris had recommended to get some special cleaning fluid. And then I asked Chris earlier about, they started to get a line here, and I did use a Q-tip to clean that with the cleaning fluid. And apparently that is normal, right, Chris?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That'll happen more initially than it will later down the road, because there's a little pad underneath that wiper arm, and it's just going to conform to the things there.
Okay, cool. But well, and there's the red one again. They're both great. And the cool thing is, it got my daughter interested in driving again, because she tried them and went, "Oh, this is fun." Went, yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
And there's the lube stuff that Chris recommended about, and you just need a little drop, and that's it. And then I think I showed you this earlier, Chris. That was the first initial cleaning after running for about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
And you say, and that's normal, you were saying, right?
Oh, absolutely normal. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So there we go. So we've gone from, as my daughter said, welcome to the 21st century.
Get similar results with the Q-tip off your Parma resistor as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's true enough. Yeah. True enough. Yep. That's right. Although now, cleaning the Parma
they work perfectly well. It's just a case of matching them to the correct motors. When you've got a low with a high resistance controller like that, we always found that with the lower grip cars that we got, because we got 3 amongst our setup, I actually used to go on the podium to drive 2 alternate cars on the 4 lanes, and I would wear one controller around my neck, which suited the high mag car, which was like a low ohm one, and the other one was a higher ohm controller for the other lower grip car. Oh. So I used to use one of those, and I used to use a Parma Turbo for the other one. Mm-hmm. 6 ohm and 25 ohm they were.
Well, to your point, we did adjust the pot, as you suggested, Chris, for different cars. It does make a difference.
Oh yeah.
Now, you were also saying not to move the knob when the car's moving, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, so we have a rule about going into the pits before you adjust the the knob.
Just take your finger off the trigger, make an adjustment, try it. Take your finger off the trigger, adjust it, try it. If you do it under motion, you can create a bit of static, and those pots are like $5 pots. They're really cheap, and they can wig out if a little bit of spark or an arcing goes on in the pot. Okay. And every once in a while, just get yourself some bottle of lighter fluid and just squirt a little lighter fluid in the pots.
Oh.
Move them back and forth without the controller being connected to anything, and that'll just clean out the pots.
Oh, okay, so it acts like a contact cleaner then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, contact cleaner's fine. There's a couple little holes in the back of the pot, or you can squirt a little lighter fluid down by the side of the shaft and the bushing that goes into the pot.
Okay, and that's something that I guess you don't have to do for quite a while, I guess.
No, you'll find that either the brakes or the sensitivity gets a little funky, like it's not, you've adjusted it and nothing really happens, so then squirt it down. It's not something you really have to do on a regular basis at all. Cleaning them, yes, not messing around with the pots.
Okay, cool, thank you. But no, it's a wonderful addition, yeah. And I know I have to do a lot of things, but I guess I get to do an episode of that too.
Good power supplies and good controllers are the two most important things to having fun in this hobby.
Well, to your point, it really seems to marry up well with the pyramid supply that we have.
Yeah. You can run old cars, not so good cars, slow cars, fast cars. If you don't have a good power supply and a good control, once you get a good power supply and a good controller, the whole appreciation and the whole hobby changes for you.
Well, here's a question for you, Chris. You know, like the old Cox, like I've got, a 1/32 scale Cheetah and the GT40. Can I use those Professor Motor controllers?
Sure you can.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Fine.
That'd be fine. Okay. Now I just thought, because the 60 motors tend to draw a bit more power. That's why I asked.
Oh, you've got to, they do, but there's not anywhere near what that. In real simple terms, the orange Parma controllers are resistors.
Right.
And in real simple terms, the electronic controllers are voltage regulators.
Okay.
Okay, so it's more to it than that, but when you pull the trigger, the voltage goes up, and when you release the trigger, the voltage goes down. So with any of your vintage motors, that controller you have is absolutely 100% perfectly fine.
So even for like a Cox 1/24 Cheetah, that'll do okay? Like
fine.
No problem.
Okay.
Zero.
That transistor in those Professor Motorsport, I think, is rated at about 20 odd amps.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's only
35C. 35C transistor.
Don't go to Mike's track and race those Group 12s and stuff.
In actual fact, you can, Greg.
Yeah, well,
we've got a couple of guys down here that were running 12 of these controllers years ago on Group 12s.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't go any bigger than that, but yeah.
I don't know what the group classifications are. Group 12 is okay for a Professor motor, but whatever.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
No, they're good value controller.
Yeah, no. So Brian, I would highly recommend them. They're great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got SPC ones, but I've had Professor Motor in the past.
Yeah.
All righty, Don's got a hand up. What's up, Don?
Well, I need an identification of.
Ooh, let's do it.
Manufactured this. Now the front wheels are not original. So
bring it up a little closer.
Is that the four-wheel drive? What was it called? Faraday or Fairlay?
no, it has.
The body looks like a Skelectric body.
Yeah, there was a four-wheel drive it was like a Faraday or Fairlay. I think Jim Clark actually drove the car once.
I've had that transmission in
Ferguson.
electric cars.
It was a Ferguson? Okay, sorry, you're right. There you go.
No, it's a Felday Ford.
Felday Ford. Thank you.
Felday.
Okay, thank you. Gotcha.
That's pretty obscure.
But
what is it, late 60s?
I just thought it was interesting in the way that the motor fit in. It just kind of tilts on two axes here, and then this whole thing snaps out. But
A cool old thing.
it's pretty ancient. It does run.
Yeah, standard for all these Skylectric in that era.
But I figured it was a Skelectric, and it was purely on how this guide system is set up.
Yeah. It's got an oddball guide, and it's got the die-cast rear bracket in it.
Yeah.
Well,
someone might elaborate. John Kitt should know. He's a collector from way back.
Yeah, no, that's what I thought. And the other thing, Strombecker also had a line of cars where, and Eldon, that you just basically snap the motor in and the
Yes.
axles, and yeah, it was almost like set cars that they had.
Yeah, I've got a Ferrari here that's got the same setup in it, and I think there's something else here, 2 or 3 here laying around. The same.
John D on YouTube says that's a Skelectric Javelin or Electra from '68.
Ah, that's what it is. It's a thing. It's not quite right. It's a thingy. It lost something in the translation.
I was right on the money there. Late 60s Skelectric. I had 3 or 4 Ford Mirage, Ferrari, SP3, P3. All
P3.
Yeah, they were all used steer cars, but they had the guide taken away and they had that snapping alternative.
Yeah.
My ones were used steer. We never kept them that way. We converted them to.
No.
Brings back memories of running on the rugs, and the cars were just hair collectors.
Yeah.
Well, I still thought it was an interesting piece.
Yeah.
That's very
Pilot
cool.
I bought, so.
What kind is the motor in that? I don't really know the CAN designation for that car.
That's a 16D Monogram, I believe, is who manufactured that one. Has their paint colors on it anyway. But any of the 16Ds or that style will work in it. About all of them used the same motor, they just painted them different colors.
Well, mine never got any maintenance. In fact, occasionally I would think I would pull a hair out and it would make the armature turn as I pulled out the hair. It would be a carpet hair. And that's about the level of maintenance mine got when I was a kid.
It's a full start.
Or that. And Dad, can you solder this wire back in for me, please?
Yeah.
Have you tried that, Don? Does it work?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I had to replace a motor brush spring on the motor. It was missing, but the brush was still in there, so I put a new spring on it and it fired right up.
Cool. One thing those old motors had and is good to do, on the can end, there's a blind bushing, so you can't oil it from outside the can. So you need to stick a syringe inside the can and oil the bushing from the inside.
Gary's got to show.
There you go. There you go. Ah.
Same
Oh,
kind of.
there we go.
Old Skelectric one.
Yeah.
Old Ford. Same
Oh,
sort of setup.
That's the
That's a
Mirage,
Mirage, isn't it?
right?
Oh, very
yeah.
nice.
That's set up.
Got the clip out motor and everything else in it. Comes
Yeah.
out. The whole alloy rear end.
Yeah, John D was saying it's not a die-cast rear end. It's just looks die-cast.
Yeah. The later ones were all plastic. Same sort of setup. They just had a combo on it. But yeah, it's that guide set up at the front there, which is 2 clips on either side, and
Brutal.
kept it nice and high at the front there, so it was guaranteed to come off on the first corner.
Yeah.
It's going to
But you
take
could
off.
drive.
Yeah, the Lamborghini and all that had it, the Miura, and
That's right. Yellow. I had a yellow Lamborghini.
yeah, all that sort of stuff. They've all got them.
Gosh, you're bringing it all back to me now. And it was only 5-7 years ago when my parents had moved house and they got boxes that they'd still not unpacked. And they eventually opened some boxes and found all our old Skelectric from when we were children and decided to take it all to an auction house and sold all our Skelectric cars as a single lot and were surprised by how much money they made. And then they split the money between myself and my brother, and we went, don't want the money, want the Skelectric cars back, please.
I'd rather
Lost
have
a lot.
There's the Miura. Same
Oh,
setup.
yeah, there it is. Right. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And what else we got? GT40.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Same setup. And of course Ferraris. Same.
Oh, that's like the P3, P4. Is that that?
Yeah.
Those look much better than the one I have.
Yeah. So they're all a basic sort of just very simple, just clip in.
And do those things
Grease.
have much value these days, or are they like £10 a piece?
Anything is valued to anyone who wants it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You might
Yeah.
think it's worth. You might think it's worth millions, but the other person goes, "No, I got 10 of them."
Yeah, I
I'll
realise
give you
that. I
$1.
just haven't looked. I've never looked.
They must be worth.
Buying all my old cars.
They must be
It's
worth a
only
lot.
when you-
Gary's
it's only
moved
when you-
right across the country.
It's only when you give them away that you find out that they're worth a fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wayne's just trying to find out if he got all the money. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, Wayne, there was probably so much your parents felt they had to cut you guys in.
Yeah.
Greg, you
We
were
had some
asking,
really old ones too.
you were saying earlier you didn't know what a Group 12 motor is.
Yeah.
It's you're not going to maybe won't even know what this means anyway. But
Go ahead.
the armature, Group 12 armature is mandated to have 50 turns of number 29 gauge wire with a maximum stack length of 0.350. And back then we had, so if you said like what's the motor rated at in terms of RPM, you'd go, well, it's 50 turns of number 29, and that would mean what that would mean, right? So
It's not the way that I'm familiar with motors.
yeah, no, it's all, yeah, it's different now.
And then the thing is that you get one reel of number 29 wire that was thin and another one that was on the other end of the spec and it was thicker.
Well, maybe you did.
Good cheap wire.
Greg.
They pull it through a die, don't they? And when the die gets older, it gets bigger.
Yeah.
You get a thicker wire.
Yeah, Greg.
It's not so much that I don't need to program this into my brain, but what do you call the crazy, what class are the crazy fast, 1.2 second king driving, just open class, just
open, used to call
Open or Group 7.
Yeah, usually call it Group 7. It's more basically called wing car racing now, open wing car.
Yeah.
Racing.
Okay.
And you can do whatever you want in terms of motors.
Yeah, well, it was originally called Group 7 because that's what Can-Am was, I guess,
unlimited.
The FIA, right? It was Group 7.
Well, it was more to the armature. One step down from that was Group 27. And at the time there'd be a little a tag on the motor saying Group 27, and then they got rid of the tags and moved them all around. But basically, every Eurosport is open. Group 7 wing car, Group 7 is open motors. Everything else, they will specify an armature, and they will often specify magnet strength or magnet type.
Yeah.
And so I'm never going to get my head around it, but like if you were to say, these cars are faster than these cars are faster than these cars, what order would you put them in?
Group 7 is the fastest. Group 7 is the quickest.
27
wing cars. Then you would have Eurosports use basically the same motors, a little bit heavier chassis because wing cars are run on like high bank Blue Kings and stuff, and you just stand there and watch the car go around like the bank so high, right? Eurosports are run on flat tracks, so you need a little more weight on the chassis, a little bit different dynamics. You can't have the great big Lexan wings sticking to the side. You can have air control that has to be molded into the body. The same motors. Then from them, what's currently run now is a lot of the flexi type stuff. The classes are there used to be International 15 and Group 27 and this, and like there used to be tons
12
but
contenders
really folded into each other now.
Okay.
And a lot of guys, most of the racing now, most of the commercial track racing is done with motors similar to what we use in plastic cars. They're all sealed motors and they're $25 motors. You know, the one that Phil just showed was a Group 12 motor. You can buy those from Kelly or Pro Slot or that. I looked like a Pro Slot that Phil had there.
Oh, I've got all sorts here, Chris. I've got Pro Slot and I've got Muras and everything's lying here.
They're $60, $75 and around there for motor, $80 for motors like that. And they go up and down. But most of the, you know, you can buy a Hawk 7 or a JK. Like some of these motors are $15, and you can't tamper with them, which makes it better for the lower end of the field, because the better guys know how to dick around with motors and adjust stuff. But a sealed motor makes it more fair for everyone, not completely fair, because the guys who are into it will still buy 30 motors and pick the best two. But at least when you show up to the track and you look at my car, you go, well, Chris's car has the same motor that I have. And you can get lucky and pick one off the shelf that's a great motor too. So, and they're $15 for Christ's sake. You know, the other motors are $90, $100, and you're always playing. The springs get hot and fatigue, so you got to buy constantly new springs and new brushes. You got to take the whole thing apart and have the com retrude. And it's just a lot of work. It's not the complete antithesis of plastic toy car racing, where you can have a beer with your buddies and just go round and round and round.
Yeah. That's where the brushless revolution will take place. It will take place there before it takes place in our 32 scale plastic cars.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So John D on YouTube is wondering if Phil got the Offenhauser cars to show. That's what his comment is. Has Phil got the Offenhauser cars to show? I don't even know what an Offenhauser car is. Apparently
neither do I.
Maybe I'm pronouncing.
No.
That would be an Indy car.
Would it?
No.
Oh, Indy Offenhauser. Yeah, okay. So that was.
I do it. Oh, that's
maybe Gary has it.
That group cars. That's a Group 20 that we ran down here as a class.
There's nothing there. It's just a frame.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right.
This is pretty beat up now, but it just relies on the aero to keep it on the track.
Yeah.
Call that a car?
No.
Hey?
They call it a car.
Well, and at least between races, you can throw some popcorn on it and use it as a bowl.
Yeah. I think that's a 15. I can't see the sticker on the armature there.
Yeah.
Oh, Gary's got the Offenhauser. Hold on.
Gary's got an Offenhauser. There you are.
Oh, two of them.
Those Austria Royals?
I was going to make them.
No, are those Eldon or are they Scalextrics?
Scalextric.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, because Eldon made. Yeah, they look too good to be Eldon. Oh yeah, that's too good to be Eldon.
Hang on. Another one with the combo rear end in it.
Yeah.
Watson Roadsters.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
Yep, that's it.
Got the big oil sump on the side there, shows that they're offies.
Yeah, that's what was leaking in '63, and they called them Parnell Jones.
All right. Well, we got 10 minutes left.
Oh, good. Okay.
Oh, good.
All right. What do we fill it with?
I don't know. We've gone from putting hair on motors to brushless motors. That's pretty good.
You got a Offenhauser.
And an Offenhauser. An Offenhauser.
Offenhauser.
Uh-oh. Nice.
That's nice.
What did that start out as?
Believe it or not, this is a clear plastic body.
Oh, really?
Yeah, our club for some reason decided to get these things. So several years ago, Eddie Sauerback of EJ's Hobbies had a chassis stamped out for this, and you did a clear plastic body and stuff. So they were like $40 kits, and our club bought a bunch and built them all up. So I didn't like the chassis, and so I changed it and changed a bunch of other little bits and pieces. But it runs great. We ran these. They're skinny tires, lots of ground clearance as they should be, and narrow track as they should be. And we ran them with 14K BWA or NC1 motors, and they were just great. They just went around just great.
Ooh.
You can have more fun with slow sometimes, can't you?
Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, at most of even in all the clubs, the 14 and 15,000 RPM motors are not that much slower around the lap than much else. It's like you're talking a tenth or two, not like hours.
Yeah.
This thing has it's narrow track. Because of the motor, when you push the throttle, it goes forward. It doesn't go sideways. So, you go, and because it has limited horsepower, it has gobs of traction with the urethanes, and the lap times are 1/10 of a second, 2/10 of a second off of a modified slotted car on a 50 or 60 foot wood track. Now, this is certainly aided by having a Lexan body on it, which weighs nothing. But with Lexan, guys always argue. I always argue I don't like Lexan interiors in plastic. I just don't think they look very nice. And guys go, we should go faster. And I say, well, if you want to go faster, put Lexan bodies on. Well, Lexan bodies can't look very nice. Well, I think they can.
Yep.
Those cars kind of remind me of the Penelope pit lane from Pendle Slot. At our club, we run the Penelope pit lanes, and they're amazing cars. I mean, they're not.
Oh yeah, no, you can.
Well, they're set up with it together.
You're breaking up.
Yeah,
you got most of that.
And
okay, sorry about that.
But, sorry, that's the other often houses from Sky Electric.
Yeah.
Rear engine.
Yeah.
Same job.
And then all those things can be made to run around just great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta ask you, John.
Oh yeah, okay. But I
don't give me
busted
any
my
more
butt to be here on time.
So you know what? Miss next week's show if you can get that package in the mail.
Yeah, I know. That's my goal. Although, listen, I'm on the ice Thursday, Friday, Saturday. My plan is Sunday.
Priorities, John. Priorities.
Yeah, I know.
Priority.
I know. Yeah, I know.
So there's the bottleneck there, Chris, right there. How many months has it been that package has been?
And I tell you, it is now.
With Chris, it's golfing. With me, it's hockey. So I can absolutely, you can understand. Can't you?
I mean, you've got all summer, I guess, John, right? Because Chris, you're at your summer house. You're doing summer things.
Both. Well, I don't know the exact. I was going to go back and search some of the episodes, but I'm sort of thinking I've had a bag of pieces of cars for close to a year now.
Oh yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
It's close. Yeah. Okay. So right? All right. That's all right. You shamed me enough, folks. That's fine. I just want to say that you are now honorable. You're part of my family. Honorable family. This is like being at home.
After a year.
Is the garage clean yet? No.
I'm not going to do anything until the fall at this stage.
Yeah.
Oh, so I've got time.
Oh, because John McKenzie has to get it and do the fitting and testing before he can send it out.
Okay, so here's my public pledge to everyone who watches this, all 300 people. I pledge that by this week and next week, the package will be in the mail.
All right.
Okay. Maybe.
I'm gonna send Julio over to get you, if you don't, to help persuade you a little bit.
I understand you haven't done the package, so you made the pledge, you didn't do it. I got to break your name. Sorry.
All right, on that note, I'm sorry, what?
We'll break his hockey sticks.
Break his hockey sticks. There you go. Now that's an actual threat.
It's not personal, Sonny. It's only business.
He's skating on broken limbs anyways.
Exactly.
Oh,
is that the interior for the car? Nice. Yeah, I recognize.
Well, not to rub it in.
No.
I think I had this done. I think I had this done probably within a week of receiving.
No, it's okay. It's already a gaping wound. It's nothing.
I'm not sure.
Pouring salt in there.
Yeah. Oh, don't forget the lemon juice.
That was like a year ago, I think. It might be more than a year.
Yeah, it was pretty close. Either way, it's pretty close. Yeah.
Discussing the Porsche project. Is that what this
That's
is?
what we're talking about. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Now, Mike, it's your turn to ask about the RSK.
Okay, what about the RSK, John?
It's close. It's close.
John, are we doing the Maple Leafs?
And I'll keep my mouth shut.
Oh yeah, the Leafs. Yeah, right. Yeah. So I'm actually. No. I'm standing on the parade route tomorrow.
And John, what about those four custom cars?
There you go. Yeah, sure. That's okay. Let me just hit the down button here. See ya.
Chris is still scrolling.
The good news is, I guess I'm sort of popular.
At one time, we had a progress update on that about every.
You realize if I was a politician, I'd be reelected, no problem. You know that because I haven't delivered a damn thing.
You got to finish, yeah.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
There you go. Oh yeah. Hey, it looks good.
It does
2003. Beautiful, John.
He did that white paint job and then had to wait for decals.
Whoa, 2003. Oh wow.
What?
Jeez, it has been a while.
No, just because the other pictures say 2004. Yep, there's the interior. Yep.
There you go. Yep. There you go. Okay.
The worst part of all this project is I was going through a box of stuff here the other day, cleaning out some old resin bodies, and I found that exact car as a resin. After all John's work on it, I could have sent it to him and he could have remolded and detailed it.
Wait, really? Like,
Yeah.
do you have it? Do you have a picture of it? Because I'm
Not here. I'll get it up for next fortnight.
You sure?
No way.
Yeah.
So someone actually did make a body
Yeah,
of it.
it came from the UK. It's not a great casting, but it is that car.
With the the round rear fenders.
Round rear fenders, yes.
Big wing, slant nose.
Yes.
2 weeks time, Greg should have
In
a
130
comparison by then.
In 130 in 130 seconds.
130 seconds. Someone in the UK did it.
See, it's all been done before, hasn't it?
I've seen it. I've seen a custom done of it, but I never saw like that they make more bodies or where that guy got his money from or whatever.
So
It
that's
came,
the
it came
same.
from the UK. That's all I know. I don't know who did it in the UK. Yeah.
Is that the same Porsche that John Kidd had been working on? It just hasn't been delivered yet.
Exactly the same
Because
one,
like when I
Jeremy.
first joined this, like years ago, I was like, "Oh, that's gonna be a cool project." I thought it was completed. I didn't realize it was still out there.
Hold on, I'll
You
go and see if
realize
I
when
can
it's
grab it.
when it's complete, I'm not allowed to be on here anymore. That's why I'm stretching.
Greg may be dead by then. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah,
we got a timer on this project.
That's perfectly fair. Well, Phil said he's going to go see if he can grab the body, so at least I'll wait. I'll give him that much time
Yeah,
instead
we
of
got a couple of minutes. Yeah.
a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Anybody want to fill the time?
Well,
I hate
a couple of minutes.
like,
What's a couple
I
of
hate
minutes
Lexan
after a couple of
interiors,
years?
too.
I'll tell you, this episode had a slow ending, but boy, a slow beginning, but boy, the ending was just boom.
Hey,
I
let's
hate
all do the
Lexan
wave.
interiors too. We had to convert to them, so I just took a picture from the top and put it on the Lexan. I was like, done. And now they complain about that. I was like, hey, you didn't say what Lexan.
So you know what you should get a copy of a book called Flat Stanley.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's pretty. Yeah,
That's pretty much the one.
that's it. Yeah, look at that.
Look at that, John.
Oh,
And you've got
Now I'll tell the truth. You sent me that, mate. I'll dob you in.
The difference is that the ones John will be able to produce or can produce doesn't need that much work.
no, yeah, true enough.
I hope not. Yeah.
Yeah, you put a lot of filler on there. Holy cow.
It wasn't a great body, John, but yeah. I don't even know where it came from. All I can tell you, it came from the UK.
Okay.
Somewhere.
No worries. That's what my wife says about me. Not a great body, you know.
Do you have a 3D scanner? You can start scanning it now and get it.
Oh God.
See if we can beat John to the punch.
Oh wait,
We've
hold
got
on.
3 years,
Hold on.
Jeremy.
If you're making this a race, okay, this might work.
We can do it in 3 years, can't we, Jeremy?
Oh, sure, yeah. We get Vlad on this. We got this done out. We can knock this out in a year.
Vlad's a bit busy on other things at the moment.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna end the stream, but as always, we'll continue chatting about various things, not always slot car related. And if you want to partake of the pre and after show stuff, you should come and join the actual Zoom. Just Google search Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom and click the link to join us to be live contributing and have your face or not shown on the YouTube. But yeah, until next week, everybody wave bye. Let's see how long it takes for the stream to end. We're going to continue waving bye. And it says the stream is over. Okay, hold on.
How